Hey folks, welcome to the channel. Today's build is going to be a collaboration. Let me tell you how this started out. So you may not know, but I'm also a hunter. In fact, that is the first turkey fan that I ever got. And that was through the help of Sean's Outdoor Adventures channel, because I learned all the archery techniques that I know from his channel. So when I saw Sean get his 100K YouTube play button, I reached out to him, which was right before I got mine, and said, hey, how did you get it? And, what was the, and basically congratulating him. And we got to talking and said, why don't we do a collaboration and kind of introduce our channels to each other. His is a hunting channel, an archery channel, and mine is knife making. So there's a lot of crisscross there. So I figured it would be fun to make some broadheads. For those that don't know, those are hunting arrowheads. Which I've never made before, and send them over to Sean, have him check them out, test them. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's go check it out. So let's talk about making a broadhead. This is your typical broadhead. This one is actually a tri-bladed one, which obviously I'm not going to make. I'm going to make one that's a flat blade. But you can see that it's got a threaded shaft, which will go into an arrow. I'm going to start with this piece of Damascus. This is just a little offcut from a previous project. I don't remember which project, so it's going to be a bit of a mystery. So we're just going to forge this down kind of into a arrow shape, and then we'll probably do most of the grinding since there's we got to take a lot of material off. Probably have to put some holes in the center because weight is a big deal here. So this thing is, I think, 100 grams. I think that's what it's rated at. I'd have to look it up. So we got a lot of grinding to do, but let's make it arrow-shaped first. I started with a pretty sizable piece of steel here, actually, if you think about a broadhead. And you'll see as I start to get to a point, I realize I got way too much steel. So I actually end up making two of these. At first, I wasn't really sure how I was going to start to forge the second one. Right about here is where I realized I'm just going to taper the other end. So I'll have an arrow point at each end and then cut it down the middle and forge from there. Now it's time to remove the rebar handle and move to using tongs. Now I'm just using the side of the anvil to put a little indent here, and that's where I'm going to cut them. Here they are after the forging. You can see they're still pretty big, almost 2 inches long, so time to take them to the grinder. Now I'm putting the shafts in where the threading will go. Now I'm just tapping these to match the thread of the arrow that I have. Well, I'm glad I decided to try these first. The problem is they're not actually long enough, because you can see that these are really long, but they have these areas that are a little wider. And I think on this one, they've hollowed out the center area just for weight reduction, but this part, you can see it's quite tight in this insert here. So the thread locks it in, but those things keep it nice and tight. So I am going to have to replicate that on here and make that little collar for this. It just means the arrows are going to be a little shorter, but which is fine because they're still long enough. All right, let's make that little collar. So here we are so far. I managed to get the little collar so that these screw on here. And they're nice and tight. Okay, and they both screw on perfectly. I managed to do this by putting a couple of these little nuts in here and then just threading that into those nuts, spinning the drill, and then taking a file and just filing this until I got the diameter I needed. Okay, so that I think is the tough part. Now we just have to grind some symmetrical bevels in this. It's just like grinding a tiny little dagger. I found it a lot easier to put these in the arrow and actually grind them that way. It gave me something to hold on to. Okay, time to heat treat these. If we don't heat treat them, they're just little hunks of metal. So we're going to heat them up to about 1500 degrees, quench them in special quench oil, and they should come out nice and hard. And they certainly do. So here are the broadheads after being heat treated. I've just ground off the edges because we're going to take it to the HRC tester and test the hardness. Okay, let's give these a test. These broadheads were tempered at 500 degrees, so I expect the HRC will be around 56. I wanted it a little lower because I wanted them to be tougher. Because, you know, cutting ability, yeah, hopefully you only get to use them once. Okay, so we're at 57. That's actually pretty good. That's right around where I want it. Let's do one more test. Yeah, about 57. That'll do. Okay, so time to finish the grinding on these guys. They're pretty thick. So I'm going to taper them. I don't want to thin them out this way here because I want to retain how thick the collar is, whatever this piece is. So I'm going to take them right to that, but then I'll put a distal taper to the front. And then I'm going to do just like a dagger grind. So there'll be a bevel kind of going down the center and then, yeah, to a point here. So I got the distal taper on them. I kind of think they look like Imperial Star Destroyers. Time to put the bevels on them. I've already put layout fluid. We'll put some markers and we'll get to grinding bevels. Here they are after being ground. Got a really fine edge on these now. Now they really look like Star Destroyers. So next thing, I'm going to do some sanding just to get a nice pretty bevel on these, and then we're going to etch them. Also got to just take a Dremel to the inside of these just to make them nice and shiny on the inside, because we want to show off the Damascus. Alright, let's get to sanding. So here they are, sanded to 400. These things are lethal. They are so sharp, and they come to such a fine point. They are much finer point than this factory-made broadhead. I'm sure this one does a little more damage because of the tri blades, but man, I am impressed at the fine edge on these. And the weight. I didn't want them to be too heavy, so I think I'm there. I'm going to weigh them. But right now we're going to move on to the handle. I know that sounds goofy, but what I'm going to do is make a handle so this will kind of screw in, and you can use it as a knife and it'll be in a little sheath. So you could use it as a little skinning knife or whatever, just a little utility knife, and then unscrew the broadhead when you want to use it. And then in the front of the sheath there'll be a little pocket, and you'll be able to slide this one in as just an extra head. So I have some of this koa, this beautiful koa. So we're going to make the handle out of this, and then I'm just going to take one of the inserts from an arrow and put it in the front, and that's going to be what these are going to screw into. There's going to be the rough shape of our handle, and it'll go like that. So there's one of the inserts from an arrow. So that's what the broadheads are going to slide into. We're going to drill a hole in our handle and epoxy that in there, and that should be stiff enough that it should be just fine. I've cut our handle. I've actually taken a piece of G10 because I want to have like a bolster on the top of this. So we're going to epoxy that G10 here first. Then after that we'll drill our hole and get everything set, and then we'll start to shape our handle. If you're not familiar with koa, koa wood only grows on the island of Hawaii, and it's very rare. And in fact, it's illegal to harvest. You can only collect deadfall, so it's pretty expensive stuff. I get mine from Jared at High Koa, so if you need some, go check him out. So here are the broadheads. They've been all sanded to 800 grit. I've cleaned them off with acetone, and now they're going in the ferric chloride acid, and that is going to give us our Damascus pattern. They'll sit in here for about 5 minutes, and we'll do a couple of rounds. It's been 5 minutes. Let's take a look. Oh, very cool. All right, we're going to sand these off and put them back in just so we get a nice deep etch. Well, folks, here they are all finished. I think they look really cool, and they are sharp, and I'll show you how sharp in a minute. So if we go down here, I'm going to just put one, put the big one, in the handle. So there it is. It looks a little goofy, kind of like a prison shank, but it's actually pretty useful. And let me tell you, I have not sharpened these at all, even after etching them. This is right off of the sanding and off the grinder and off the sanding. But this is 8-ounce leather, 9-ounce leather, and you can see how easily it goes through it. So these are razors. So I'm curious to see what Sean thinks of these. They're like really sharp. So both fit well. They definitely fit nicely into arrows. So really cool. I also didn't show you guys, but I made this sheath where this knife fits in here, and the extra broadhead will fit into this little pocket here. So that's pretty cool. And instead of a belt loop, I decided to put a carabiner on here so you could kind of hang it. So yeah, curious what Sean thinks of that. So what I did want to do is check the weights of these. So this standard broadhead is 100 grams. They're usually weighed in grams here. So let's see what ours comes out as. I was a little worried these were going to be too heavy, so I took quite a bit off these. Okay, so it actually came out a little lighter, which I guess is fine. It's pretty close. So 92 grams for this one. I expect this guy to be a little lighter. 86 grams. Okay, so a little lighter than I wanted, but you know, certainly in the range. So pretty cool. I'll put some glamour shots at the end, but thanks folks. We'll see you on the next one. Definitely make sure you check out Sean's channel. This was a really fun project. I'm looking forward to see what Sean does with them. I've never made broadheads. I have no idea if these are going to shatter on impact or whatever he's going to put them through, but I'm curious to see. So definitely go check out Sean's channel. Here's a link up to his channel. Go check him out and see what he does with these. Thanks, folks. We'll see you on the next one.